We can change the way we use energy in this state. We are the most heavily dependent state in the country on fossil fuels. 80% of our population heats with oil. Heats with oil. Dr. Eastler will know this, that we have the highest carbon footprint in the country. And the effort that you had at McDonald's was a world effort that changed the way.
Somebody remembers that.
Huh?
Somebody actually remembers that.
I don't know if people remember this or not, but Doc, tell the story, because this changed the whole corporate cycle of solid waste and carbon issues, actually, didn't it? I mean, after he says that, we're going to give him a round of applause. But the fact is that it changed the way McDonald's, the largest, not the largest restaurant chain, it's the largest solid waste producer in the country, handles their products. But
just a little one. I went down to McDonald's one day to get a Big Mac, and the Big Macs were now sitting in a plastic box, using 400 barrels of oil a day in the United States, which is not a lot of oil, in a plastic box. I wanted to eat it right over there. So I said, I'd like a Big Mac, no box. The UMF student who was working behind the counter didn't know how to deal with that. She said, what? I said, I'd like a Big Mac, but no box, please. Oh, we can't do that. Well, can I talk to your supervisor? So the supervisor came over, and I explained to him, all I want to do is a Big Mac, no box. Just put it, on a piece of paper or something. Oh, we can't do that.
Sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions.
Yeah, the method, it's not allowed. It's against the law. It's not. You get a hamburger without a box. Oh, well, anyway, he finally gave in, and I grabbed this Big Mac on a piece of paper and headed to the table. When I could hear back then, I heard crunch. And I turned around, and he had taken ceremoniously the plastic box, broken it up, and was doing a basketball throw into the wastebasket. So I immediately went right back and cut in front of everybody. He said, what are you doing? Oh, we have a double entry accounting system. Every Big Mac over the counter has to equal a box off the pile. So I said, well, tomorrow you're going to get a lot of UMF students coming down here asking for Big Mac, no boxes. You probably ought to make a list of how many, at the end of the day, recycle your boxes. And then Neil Genslinger from the Waterville Sentinel wrote up a really nice article, went around the country on Associated Press, and he got a nice promotion. And somebody remembered it. Thank you, and thank you. And
but you changed the corporate policy, didn't you?
Absolutely.
At McDonald's, yeah. I mean, think
of
that. But here's the point. We have the highest carbon footprint in the country. We talked about my job as Conservation Commissioner and the work that I've done on endangered species. I sponsored the expansion of the Endangered Species Act in the state of Maine. The bald eagle was at 40 nesting pairs in 1980. Does anybody know how many pairs there are today?
Over 2,000.
400. 400 nesting pairs of bald eagles. It's a great success story, but you have to look long term and down the road. And I think that's another thing that we're talking about with our campaign is how do you look down the road? What Dr. Eastler did was looking down the road. We burn more oil per capita because we have long distances to commute and we heat our homes with oil. What's the alternative? Heat pumps, made in Bangor, Maine. Heat pumps made in Bangor, Maine. Electric thermal storage, storing electricity. You buy it at night off-peak from renewable energy sources like wind and biomass and Canadian hydropower. I met with the president of Hydro-Quebec. They are going to build 20,000 new megawatts of hydroelectric power in Canada, and they don't have any place to sell it. They have to come through Maine to get their power to market, to Canada, to southern New England and the New England grid. We want to be at the table making a deal with them to get cheap electricity to heat our homes, power our electric cars, and change our carbon footprint in this state. And we want to do it in 10 years, and it can be done. It can be done. If people put their minds to it, they change it. And we offer low interest or zero interest loans to help convert homes. We don't want to have the highest carbon footprint in the country here in the state of Maine. We're a clean state. We have high incidences of respiratory disease with our children not because of what Maine pollutants are out there, it's what pollutants that drift up here from the Midwest, from coal-producing states and other places. We can change that in the state of Maine if we put our minds to it, and we will create jobs, and we will stimulate the economy, and we will take $5 billion that we send out of this state for energy. And where do we send it? To the Middle East. We send it to the Middle East for oil, to oil-producing nations where it's very unstable, where there are 2 wars going on, and we can keep that $5 billion here in Maine and help grow and stimulate this economy. It can be done. I believe that it can be done. I remember when the price of oil spiked, Americans drove 12 billion fewer miles in this country. Mainers were a part of that. The gas tax revenues went down because people drove less. People bought hybrids. They bought higher mileage cars. And it changed the dynamic in America. 12 billion fewer miles were driven because of the spike in gasoline prices. Can you imagine if we all put our minds together and talked about changing over the way we heat our homes and the way if we insulate our homes? We have 450,000 homes in this state. It's the oldest housing stock in the country. I live in one. I live in an 1835 Victorian home in Hollowell, Maine. It's got new windows and new insulation, but it needs a new furnace, and I would love to put electric thermal storage right next to that oil furnace and buy electricity between 7 at night and 7 in the morning and store it and heat that home all day. And the technology is there right now, if we just have the will and the mind to do it. I've been talking for quite a bit, and I'd like to answer your questions. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. This is the UMF campaign for governor. I'm not kidding you. This is the UMF campaign for governor. My campaign manager is a UMF guy. His wife is a UMF guy. My sister was a UMF graduate. My daughter, Chelsea, is a junior here at Farmington who is in Santiago, Chile. Now, don't you think we were scrambling around Saturday morning looking?
Our web designer.
What?
Our web designer at UMF.
Dustin Brooks.
Kevin Brooks.
Kevin Brooks. Kevin Brooks, a UMF guy. But my daughter Chelsea's an international studies student who's in Santiago, Chile right now. And some of you know her, some of you have been to school with her here. And my daughter Kate finished 3 years of school year. She's taken a very long sabbatical out in Snowbird, Utah at the ski area. And I have a son, Brady, who is an engineering graduate from the University of Maine at Orono, who has graduated in a program that's one of the best in the country. And you know, these kids, we want to get those kids back in Maine and have them see their future here in this state. And I have those convictions to do that. If you want to join my campaign, I would love to have you. I'd love to have you join it. It's a campaign that is a lot of young people, a lot of older people. We have a lot of people that are involved in this campaign that have been working with me for years, whether it be in conservation or small business or different things that I've been involved in, or canoe, wild rivers, and I'd love to have you help.